My name is Adam Johnson, and I teach low brass and chamber music at the University of Louisiana at Monroe. I know this time of year high school students are often getting ready for all-state auditions, and I'd like to take a moment and just share some thoughts about what it takes to have a successful audition for all-state. I've judged a number of rounds of all-state in the past, and it's very obvious the students who come in and who are prepared to be successful in those auditions. We'll talk a minute today about how we prepare our scales, how we prepare the lyrical piece each year, and how we prepare the technical piece as well. When it comes to playing scales for an all-state audition, it's important to understand what the judges are actually listening for. They're listening for whether or not the student has a command of the key and whether or not they have a good sense of intonation. So it's very important to play these scales in a way that demonstrate those things. For a student to come in and play the scales really fast and miss half the notes, that doesn't really earn you a lot of points. When you come in and play them obviously so slow that you're just creeping through one note after another, that's not impressive either, because that doesn't demonstrate a command of the key. So finding the right tempo, a comfortable tempo in which you can play the scale accurately and in tune is very important. For example, if I were to play my C scale this slowly, would give the impression that I don't really know the scale that well. If I come in and play the scale this quickly, obviously I'm playing and missing a lot of notes, and it's not a particularly convincing scale performance. So it's important to find the tempo that you can demonstrate your skill level in each key with great control and great consistency. So for the lyrical etude each year, it's important that the all-state auditionee take the time to play these with great sensitivity and great expression. We want to play these in a very similar way that we might sing them. So I think it's very important for the lyrical etude to actually spend some time singing the etude. Find a piano, play the pitches, sing through the piece in the way that it most naturally comes out. And we want to take that and transfer that to the instrument. Too many times I hear students on lyrical etudes sort of fighting the instrument to try to accomplish something that could be much more easily expressed just in vocalizing the piece. So the etude that I like to demonstrate this with is the D minor etude, page 12 from the Voxman method. This particular etude it starts off with just a simple arpeggio. So as we identify those pitches, I'm going to take those first 6 notes and just think about how I might sing that if I were in a choir. La, 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 la. There's a certain expression that I would have as I'm singing through that, and I want to bring that through on the instrument. Now, when it comes to the actual technique of the trombone, playing those notes, it's important to not let the horn get in the way of the music. We know that legato is sometimes a challenging thing for the trombone player, trying to make that clean at the same time smooth. So I'd like to give you just a couple of tips that will help you to play these expressive lyrical etudes smoothly at the same time cleanly. I always start with lyrical etudes playing these with no tongue, just relying on the air and the embouchure with the slide movement to produce each pitch and keep that sense of beautiful lyricism as we do this. So I'll play the first part of this with no tongue, just to demonstrate what I'm talking about. I'm singing it, I'm hearing it in my mind, I've buzzed it on the mouthpiece a little bit, now I'm going to just blow through it with no tongue. I'm just trying to feel the connection between every note. Eventually, I will clean it up with my articulation, but right now, I'm just relying on my air, my embouchure to produce every pitch within the musical context that I'm looking for. Trying to make sure that my air is totally smooth, totally connected, so that there's no gaps or interruptions between the notes. From here, I'm going to introduce the tongue and attempt to clean this up a little bit, and I'll start that just by articulating the rhythm, the simple eighth note rhythm on one note. practicing the smooth articulation that I want to come through in the etude. Once I've done that a couple times and I feel like I've sort of put this all together, I'm going to bring it together now with the slide moving, the tongue moving, everything coordinated, still attempting to perform the lyrical phrase that I hear in my mind. You can hear how this starts to have a similar quality to the way I sang it when I originally started. So with the lyrical etudes, sing, buzz, then play with no tongue, then add a tongue on one note, then finally bring it all together. As we think about the technical etude in all-state auditions, some of the same advice that I've given on scales could apply here. Many times players come in and they think there's a certain tempo that they have to hit in order to be playing it quote-unquote right. Well, I tell my students again and again, I don't care how fast you can play the wrong notes. I don't care how fast you can play out of tune. I don't care how fast you can play with bad articulation. The point being, play the piece initially as slowly as you need to in order to play it absolutely precise, with no errors, with no pitch problems, that sort of thing. So I would start, this particular etude is number 11 in Voxman. It's in the key of F major, and it begins with 16th notes, which for the trombone player can present some issues. It's indicated as allegro moderato. Remember that moderato is important. It indicates a moderate allegro, so not breakneck speed. Just a lively tempo, but always under control. As we did with the lyrical etude, I would suggest playing the rhythm of these etudes on one note, just to very clearly have control of the articulation and the time and rhythm of the piece. For example, just playing it as though it were a simple rhythm sheet, isolating that component. From there, we can start changing pitches and playing through it with the correct phrasing and the correct tune. Like that. Now, I wasn't pleased with how clean that was, so I would take this back and I would slow it down. Even going half speed, it's important to practice things slowly enough that you can play them exactly precise with no errors. Every rep that you do in a practice session that has an error is kind of a wasted rep because you've just programmed in something that you don't want to have happen at the audition. So slow it down and get only quality reps as you're practicing. At that speed, I feel pretty confident that I can play it accurately. From there, we gradually get faster and faster. Now, just one other caution when it comes to the technical etudes. So many times I hear students come in and they play staccato notes overly short. In other words, they see these 16th notes and they see the staccatos printed above, and they try to really clamp down on the staccatos and cut the notes off. Something like this. There's nothing you can do in a technical etude that's worse than that. Cutting off the sound, cutting off the resonance that you have in the line. When it comes to 16th notes, I always tell people they are going to be short just because they're fast. We don't need to try to make them artificially short. So even in staccato technical passages, work for a line in your playing. Make sure that one note proceeds to the next note. Every note should blow through to the next note. And when you do that, you get a sense of resonance on every note instead of cutting them off or clamping off each note with the sound. So to accomplish that, I would start practicing this, of course practicing it slowly, but as I speed it up, I would start to play it really more like a tenuto attack than a staccato. And then as I work, I'm going to gradually shorten the notes to get the style that I'm looking for. So I would start off something like this. And as I speed it up, the notes get shorter because they go faster. From there, I could shorten it up even a little bit more as the tempo goes a little faster, but I'm not trying to play the notes overly short. Something like that. Take these tips and apply these to the technical etudes that you have to play. And I think you'll find that you develop a level of control through the slow practice. You develop a sense of musicality and line through the longer notes. And then as you put those things together, you end up with a technical etude that you can be proud of and that the judges will greatly appreciate in your all-state audition.